Good morning, children. Welcome back to the lesson The Enemy, written by Pearls S. Buck. Dear children, we had 4 sessions on it already, and let us make a quick recapitulation of what we have already discussed. Dear children, first of all, we started with the character Shadow, the doctor, and his wife Hannah, and how an American soldier got washed up to their house, and Hannah's washing the soldier, and Yumi's denial of the wash, and finally Shadow operates on the American. Then Shadow and Hannah look after the American, and servants leaves Shadow's house. The arrival of a messenger. I think here we stopped. And messenger came, and Hannah was much frightened, thinking that the messenger might have come to arrest her husband. Okay, so now let us go to page number 40. I think we have stopped at page number 40. All of you open page number 40. Yeah. Shadow goes to see the general. Of course, the general said weakly, I understand fully, but that is because I once took a degree in Princeton. So few Japanese have. So now the general and the doctor started striking a conversation. I care nothing for the man, Excellency, said Shadow, but having operated on him with such success. And meanwhile, Shadow revealed the fact that he happened to operate an American prisoner of war. Okay, and he also said that operation was a success. Okay, yes, the general said, it only makes me feel you more indispensable to me. Then, on hearing the success story of the operation, the general had more faith on the doctor, and the doctor has become indispensable. That means that we cannot avoid. Indispensable. So the general cannot avoid the doctor. Evidently, you can save anyone. You are so skilled. So the general felt very happy and said the doctor could save anyone because doctor was so skilled. You say you think I can stand one more such attack as I have had today? And now general is asking, I had a minor heart attack, so whether he could sustain with another or second attack? No more than one. Then Shadow said, no, only one can be allowed. I mean, before that, what should be done? The operation should be done, and to uh, remove the blocks of the heart. Okay, then certainly I can allow nothing to happen to you, the general said with anxiety. Then general said, no, then in that case I cannot do anything with you. In the sense, I cannot take any action on you for keeping an American prisoner. Okay, his long pale Japanese face became expressionless, which meant that he was in deep thought. You cannot be arrested. This, dear children, you underline this. That means this doctor could never be arrested. Why? Suppose he is arrested, who will treat the general? A question mark. And general wanted his service very much. So general might do something to save the doctor now. Okay. The general said, closing his eyes, suppose you were condemned to death and the next day I had to have my operation. That is the problem. Suppose he is handed over to the military to be arrested, and the very next day the general getting his next pain, who will perform the operation? Because he never believes other surgeon. There are other surgeons, Excellency, said Shadow. Shadow said, there are other surgeons available. None I trust, the general replied. The general has no faith in other doctors. The best ones have been trained by Germans and would consider the operation successful even if I died. And he is little sarcastic, telling that some are trained by the Germans and they would do the operation, and finally they will say the operation successful, but patient died. I do not care for their points of view, he sighed. It seems a pity that we cannot better combine the German ruthlessness with American sentimentality. Piteousness. Okay, all of you write down. Ruthlessness means pitilessness. no pity is there. That is called ruthlessness. There is no pity. With American sentimentality, okay, then you could turn your prisoner over to execution. What is execution? Official killing. It's called execution of a person as a, by the law or as a punishment. That is called execution. And yet I could be sure you would not murder me while I was unconscious. The general laughed. He had an unusual sense of humor. As a Japanese, could you not combine these two foreign elements, he asked. Actually, general is ensuring that the doctor would perform the operation with success, and he would not kill him during his unconsciousness. Shadow smiled. I am not quite sure, he said, but for your sake I would be willing to try, Excellency. But I cannot assure 100% success, but I will try to operate on you and your Excellency. That means a matter of paying respect by calling, for example, your Highness, your Excellency, right? The general shook his head. I had rather not to be the test case. Don't make me a test case, like experiment, okay, like doing experiments on rats and monkeys. He felt suddenly weak and overwhelmed with the cares of his life as an official in times such as these, when repeated victory brought great responsibility all over the South Pacific. Actually, general is very patriotic, and he could reap victories in the past. Even today also he is very much worried about victory, but because of his personal ailment, or you can say disease, he is slightly shaken here, and he wanted an operation badly. It is very unfortunate that this man should have washed up on your doorstep, he said irritably. Now he feels it an irritation. What an irritation? The washing ashore of that prisoner of war on the doorstep of the doctor, because something to be done now. As a being a patriot, he cannot neglect it. The general cannot neglect it. General should do something to save the doctor as well as to get rid of that American prisoner of war. So I feel it so myself, Shadow, and said gently. Shadow also said, yes, I too felt it the same way. It would be best if he could be quietly killed. The general said, not by you, but by someone who does not know him. I have my own private assassins. You know, assassin means killer, murderer. So who has private assassins? The general. So he would be sending those assassins to Shadow's house, and they would perform the killing. Okay, suppose I send 2 of them to your house tonight, or better any night. You need know nothing about it. It is now warm. That what would be more natural than that you should leave the outer partition of the white man's room open to the gardener while he sleeps. So general here gives the doctor an idea that he would be sending 2 assassins, and what the doctor should do, keep the, I have already told you, he has got 2 partitions of the house. So the other partitions where the prisoner of war is staying, that should be kept open so that the assassin could enter and execute the work. What is that? Killing that person. Okay, certainly it would be very natural, Shadow agreed. In fact, it is so left open every night. Then Shadow said, no need, it is already kept open. Good, the general said, yawning. Yawning means leaving, you know what is yawning? Leaving heavy breath through your mouth. Yawning. They are very capable assassins. Okay, they make no noise, and they this is very important. The assassins are very expert. They may not make any noise, and they know a trick of inward bleeding. Even blood will not come out. In such a way, they will kill the person. Okay, and if you like, that means no trace of killing or murder will be there, and they will kill them without bleeding. Okay, and they will lift the body also. If you like, I can even have them remove the body. So this is what the assurance given by the general to Dr. Shadow. So there will be a question. What was the plan arranged by General to help Shadow? This is the plan. Okay, the children. Shall we continue? Yeah. Shadow considered that perhaps would be best, Excellency. He agreed, thinking of Hannah. So finally he agreed because Hannah is highly frightened, and this would be a good idea. He left the general's presence then and went home, thinking over the plan. In this way, the whole thing would be taken out of his hands. He would tell Hannah nothing, since she would be timid. Means a dastard, we can say. A very fearful person is called timid at the idea of assassins in the house, and certainly such persons were essential in an absolute state such as Japan was. How else could rulers deal with those who oppose them? So here is a question. Actually, this kind of assassins are required because sometimes it is required. If somebody opposes the general or a higher officer, this kind of assassins are required. Okay, so who felt it like that? Shadow felt it like that, and he will not reveal the fact to Hannah because Hannah is timid, very fearful by nature. Okay, yeah, he refused to allow anything but reason to be the atmosphere of his mind as he went into the room where the American was in bed. But as he opened the door, to his surprise, he found the young man out of bed and preparing to go into the garden. So he went to see the patient there, but he was preparing to go into the garden. Actually, he was not allowed to come out of the room. What is this? He exclaimed. Who gave you permission to leave your room? Shadow got angry and asked this question. I am not used to waiting for a permission, Tom said gaily. Happily, he said, No, I generally do not wait for any permission. Gosh, I feel pretty good again, but will the muscles on this side always feel stiff? Now, as a patient, that American person is asking whether something can be done for the muscle pain, because his muscle is stiff. Stiff is not moving, not flexible. Is it so? Shadow required, because maybe after the operation it happened. So Shadow inquired, surprised. He forgot all else. Immediately Shadow forgot everything. Now he has become a doctor. He forgot all other things. Now he will treat the patient. Now I thought I had provided against that, he murmured. He lifted the edge of the man's shirt and gazed, means looked, gazed at the healing. Now he is taking the healing scar. That mark left by the wound is called scar. The mark left by the wound is called scar, because operation has made that scar. Massage may do it. So what? Not massage. It is massage. Body massage. A massage may do it. He said, if exercise does not. If exercise is not working, you have to do massaging. It won't bother me much, the young man said. His young face was gone. Thin. Gone means thin. All of you write down. Gone means thin. Face was very thin under the stubbly. Write down. Short. Meaning short. And blonde. Blonde means light colored. Blonde. All of you write down. Light colored. So gaunt is thin. Stubbly is short. And blonde is light colored, right? Say, doctor, I have got something I want to say to you. If I hadn't met a Jap like you, means Japanese like you, okay, I wouldn't be alive today. I know that, because he's very grateful to doctor now. He's saying, because if it is some other Japanese, what would happen? What would have happened? He would have informed the matter to the general or military immediately, and he would be killed there. But here, this man, this Japanese doctor is very kind enough, it seems. Okay, so Shadow bowed, but he could not speak. He did not utter a word. Sure, I know that, Tom went on warmly. His big thin hands gripping a chair were white at the knuckles. Knuckle, the joints of your hand, the bone, knuckles. I guess if all Japs were like you, there wouldn't have been a war. So this is a complimentary statement given by that enemy, that prisoner of war, telling that if all Japanese are like our doctor, there wouldn't be a war. Perhaps Shadow said with difficulty, and now I think you had better go back to bed. Okay, then finally Shadow said, okay, perhaps that would be there, but now for the time being you go to your bed. He helped the boy back into bed and then bowed. Good night, he said, and he said parted by saying good night. Shadow slept badly that night. Time and time again he woke, thinking he heard the rustling of footsteps, the sound of a twig broken or a stone displaced in the garden, a noise such as men might make who carried a burden. So now he is visualizing the assassin coming, killing that person Tom, I mean prisoner of war, and carrying him. This is what the plan. Okay, so he is visualizing it and he hears sounds. Okay, the next morning he made the excuse to go first into the guest room. He did not allow Hannah to go. Suppose the assassin left the dead body there by chance, or he is not there, who will be suspicious? Hannah will be suspicious about it. So that's why doctor himself went to say, if the Americans were gone, he then could simply tell Hannah that the so general had directed. Then he would tell, suppose he disappeared, he could tell all the story, what general did and how it is how it was executed, everything. But when he opened the door, he saw at once that there on the pillow was the shaggy blonde head. That blonde head is there, light colored head is there. Shaggy means rough. Dear children, write down, shaggy means rough. Blonde already we learned, light colored. Okay, blonde hair. He could hear the peaceful breathing of sleeping, and he closed the door again quietly. He is asleep, he told Hannah. He is almost well to sleep like that. The boy is there, nothing has happened. He is sleeping. What shall we do with him? Hannah whispered. Whispered means spoke in a low voice. Spoke in a low voice. What shall we do? Her old refrain means repeated question. Saying. Refrain means something being repeated, right? Like a refrain of a song. The first two lines of songs are repeated. That is called refrain. Shadow shook his head. I must decide in a day or two, he promised. But certainly, he thought, the second night must be the night. There rose a wind that night, and he listened to the sounds of bending boughs. Boughs means branches, and whistling partitions. Actually, sound coming from the partition. Hannah woke too. He also woke up. Ought we not to go and close the sick man's partition? Actually, Hannah felt like closing that partition. Okay, but who will not allow? Shadow will not allow, because Shadow knows the plan. No, said Shadow. He is able now to do it for himself. But the next morning the American was still there. Then the third night, of course, must be the night the wind changed to quiet rain, and garden was full of sound of dripping eaves and running springs. Actually, nothing happened. There was a rain. Shadow slept a little better, but he woke at the sound of a crash of a crash and leaped to his feet. Suddenly he heard something falling, so he jumped into his feet. What was that? Hannah cried. The baby woke at her voice and began to wail. I must go and see. And by that, with the sound of that shadow, children also woke up and they started crying. I must go and see. But he held her. Actually, Hannah felt like going to that partition where that American prisoner was kept, because the sound came from that side. But who will not allow her to go? Shadow. But he held her and would not allow her to move. Shadow, she cried, what is the matter with you? You are behaving in a different way. Don't go, he muttered. Don't go. His terror infected her and she stood breathless. Actually, the doctor is expressing fear in his face that infected her also, and she stood breathless, waiting. There was only silence. Together they crept back into the bed, the baby between them. Again the husband and wife started continuing their sleep, baby between them. Yet when he opened the door of the guest room in the morning, there was the young man. Nothing happened. He was very gay, very happy, and had already washed and was now on his feet. He had asked for a razor. yesterday and had shaved himself, and today there was a faint color in his cheeks. Actually, the boy Tom, that man, the prisoner of war, actually had a shaving, and now he looks very smart, but there is a faint color because he is not totally recuperated from the illness. Okay, I am well, he said joyously. Shadow drew his kimono round his weary body. He decided suddenly go through another night. It was not that he cared for this young man's life. No, simply it was not worth the strain. Now, Shadow is feeling that something else might be done. Okay, because the assassins are not coming and performing the killing. Okay, so he's a little worried. You are well. Then Shadow said, okay, you are well. That who is well? The prisoner of war is well. Now he lowered his voice. You are so well that I think if I put, I think better we stop here and we will continue tomorrow. Dear children, now let us make an immediate recap of what we have already discussed for the day. Today we started with the meeting of general by Shadow, and Shadow expressed everything to the general, but general was too tired tired, and because of the pain that he had the other day, and he assured that he would arrange two assassins, expert skilled assassin, and they would kill that prisoner of war, and even would carry the body, and no trace would be left. Okay, even they are expert in inward bleeding. Okay, the trick of inward bleeding. And after that day, Shadow waited for the assassins, and every time he would go to see the prisoner the very next morning, but nothing happened for the coming 3 days. So he is little worried, and now he is thinking about some other plan. So tomorrow I think we will discuss the other part, and most probably we will wind up by tomorrow. Thank you children for listening to my class, and also write down the difficult words, and also write down the questions and the answers. Thank you. Bye.